The airport was alive with noise, rolling suitcases, boarding calls, tired families returning home. Amid the chaos, one woman stood in line, calm, confident, clutching her passport. Her name was Alyssa Carter, CEO of one of the fastest-growing tech companies in America. But to the TSA agent glaring at her, she was just another traveler, black, alone, and too composed for his comfort. He asked for her documents, his tone sharp, his stare colder than the tiled floor beneath her feet. She smiled politely, unaware that within seconds, her life and the system behind that counter was about to shift forever. When he ripped her passport in half, claiming it was clearly fake, the line went silent. Alyssa's world tilted. A lifetime of dignity and discipline suddenly felt like nothing. But what he didn't know, what no one knew, was that in 10 minutes, the woman he tried to humiliate would make a decision that would change airport security across the nation. Watch until the end to see how one act of cruelty became the spark for historic change. Wait a second, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Alyssa Carter had spent the last decade building her empire, AeroLink Technologies, a company specializing in AI-based travel security systems. Her software was already being tested in airports across Europe, designed to make screening faster, fairer, and bias-free. Ironically, she was flying back to Washington, D.C. to finalize a partnership that could bring the same system to U.S. airports. She'd always believed in quiet strength. The daughter of a schoolteacher and a mechanic, Alyssa had learned early that resilience wasn't loud, it was steady. She moved through life with precision, crisp suits, early mornings, and a mind sharper than any blade. That morning, she wore her confidence like armor. Her presentation was ready, her flight perfectly timed. She breezed through check-in, smiled at the attendants, and walked toward security like she'd done countless times before. But this time, something was different. The agent at the checkpoint didn't see a world-class CEO. He saw a woman who didn't look like she belonged in business class. And as Alyssa approached, his eyes narrowed, not with curiosity, but with suspicion. The system she was trying to change was about to show her exactly why it needed to be changed. The TSA line was long, and frustration hung in the air. When it was Alyssa's turn, the agent didn't greet her. He held out his hand. She placed her passport and boarding pass into his palm. He glanced at her photo, then at her face, then back again. Twice, 3 times, each look heavier with disbelief. "This doesn't look like you," he said flatly. Alyssa blinked. "I assure you it is." Her voice was calm but firm. Years of leadership had trained her to meet disrespect with composure. He held the passport up to the light, turning it like a puzzle piece. People behind her shuffled impatiently. Then, without warning, he tore the passport down the middle. Gasps erupted from the line. Alyssa froze, her heart thudding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "This is fake," he declared. "Step aside, ma'am. We'll verify your identity," security approached. Her briefcase, containing confidential documents, contracts, and the very badge confirming her role as CEO, was taken. She tried to explain, but her words were swallowed by their indifference. Alyssa was escorted to a side room. The white walls were cold, the air colder. Minutes dragged. She sat there, powerless, replaying every glance, every sneer, every unspoken message. "You don't belong here." But then something inside her shifted. She wasn't angry, she was determined. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about every traveler who had ever been judged by their skin instead of their story. 10 minutes later, as she sat in that holding room, she opened her laptop. She didn't need her passport to prove who she was. Her name was all over the system. She owned one of the software firms listed in the TSA's own pilot programs. Her phone buzzed. A message from her assistant. "Are you through security yet?" Alyssa smiled faintly. "Not yet," she whispered. "But I'm about to change how it works." A senior TSA supervisor stormed in, holding a printout. His face was pale. "Miss Carter?" he asked, his voice trembling.
"Are you—"
"The CEO of AeroLink Technologies." She nodded slowly. Silence followed, thick, suffocating, and heavy with regret. The agent who tore her passport looked stunned, the arrogance draining from his face. The supervisor cleared his throat. Ma'am, I sincerely apologize. There's been a grave mistake. Alyssa stood, her calm composure returning like armor sliding into place. Yes, she said softly. There has. Within minutes, the story began to spread, passengers tweeting, photos leaking. A black woman was humiliated at the same airport where her company was scheduled to modernize. News outlets picked it up before her plane even left the ground. By the time she reached D.C., hashtags were trending nationwide. People weren't just outraged, they were inspired. The next morning, Alyssa walked into the Department of Homeland Security for her meeting. Everyone in the room already knew her name. She placed her documents on the table. You wanted a system that detects threats, she said evenly. Let's start by detecting bias. In the weeks that followed, the story went viral. Public pressure mounted, and within months, airports across the U.S. began testing a new AI-driven screening system, one that prioritized accuracy, transparency, and fairness. At its core was the technology Alyssa had built. The TSA agent who ripped her passport was dismissed after an internal review. But Alyssa didn't celebrate his downfall. She focused on reform. She proposed nationwide empathy and bias training for airport personnel. She pushed for legislation that would make equality not an idea, but a standard. For the first time, security wasn't just about safety. It was about dignity. Alyssa never forgot that morning at the airport. She often replayed the sound of her passport tearing, not as a wound, but as a reminder. Sometimes breaking something is the first step to rebuilding it stronger. Her story became a case study in leadership and courage. She was invited to speak at universities, featured on magazine covers, and recognized as a trailblazer in both technology and justice. Standing before cameras months later, she said, "Change doesn't happen when we're comfortable. It happens when we're confronted." And as her words echoed across the nation, one truth became clear. Sometimes it takes just 10 minutes to reveal the cracks in a system. The real question is, who's brave enough to fix them? Where are you watching from? Please tell us your city and country below. Take care.